Mm.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. We're going to get started. Welcome to day 2 of Empower Missouri's Week of Action. My name is Lucas Caldwell McMillan. I am the Chief of Policy Staff here at Empower Missouri, and I'm really glad you decided to join us today. We had a great session yesterday. Folks joined us for a food security issue, and we sent over 50 messages to lawmakers in Jefferson City about the importance of expanding access to free school meals. And so I know there's a lot going on in the world. I'm sure a lot going on in your life. I'm glad you chose to spend an hour today with us to learn about an issue and, most importantly, take action and let our voices heard to improve the lives for our fellow Missourians. Really excited to talk about independent oversight with the Department of Corrections, and excited that you won't have to hear from me because I'm not an expert in that, but you will be able to hear from a great Community Justice Policy Manager, Rika White, who will be leading us today through a little bit of the issue and then how we can take action to let lawmakers know that this is an important issue and there are evidence-based solutions to improve it. Rika, you can take it from here.
Thank you, Lucas. Welcome, everyone. Thank you all for joining. You will be spending the next hour with us. I'm excited that you all are here. Like Lucas said, we will be talking about issue education, correctional oversight, having an action, ways to take actions, getting clean slate updates, and then talk about our upcoming event, which is our day of action. My colleague Gwen is also here, and a couple of other my colleagues from Empower, so I'm excited for you all to join us as well. Right now, we will have 5-minute breakout rooms. So the rooms are already at the bottom, and you can join your breakout room as it relates to your region. So if you're in St. Louis, if you're in Kansas City, Central, Southwest, Southeast, and then of course, if you have any questions relating where you need to go, please feel free to drop it in the chat and we'll help you as best as we can. And so for the next 5 minutes, go in there, meet someone new, hopefully. And then our question for the day is, what are issues happening in your community that are near and dear to your heart?
Thanks, Rika. And as a reminder, if you don't see the breakout rooms next to where you mute yourself or turn your video on and off, you might need to click the 3 dots to see breakout rooms. Or if you're having any issues with that, go ahead and put it in the chat or come off mute and I can assign you, if you let me know which region you want to join, I can assign you as well.
We have a lot of St. Louis people here. Nice. I'm from St. Louis. I still see a few unassigned people. If you all need help, please feel free to get off your mute, off mute so you can be assigned to the region that you would like to join.
Yeah, St. Louis. St. Louis.
I got you, Jackson.
Okay.
You should have a pop-up, Jackson, that accepted you. Oh, I think you're gone. Yeah, you should have a pop-up to join, Jackson. If you can still hear me, you're in the main room. Great, I see you moved.
Yeah.
Anyone else need help getting to the right room? Okay, Rika, I'm going to pop into Southeast and Southwest and have them merge. Just
okay.
Talk to.
Sounds good. Thank you.
I need to join Central.
Hi, Tony. It's Lucas from Empower. It looks like you're our only Southeast person, so I'm going to move you over to Southwest, which is as close as we can get you, which is also just one individual, and you guys can have a Southern Missouri powwow.
We will. Perfect. Thank you, Lucas.
Yeah, thank you.
I'll just have you close to, I don't
It
even
looks
see your
like
name.
somebody hopped in for a second and then hopped right back out as well.
Oh.
Oh, they're back. I'll hop
Yep,
in.
I just moved Tony. We had a misconnection there. If you hop back in, I just moved Tony for a Southern Missouri powwow because you were the
All right.
only Southeast and Southwest.
Thank you, thank you.
Is there anybody else that needs to join? Damon, I see Kelly, Ramona, and Tamika.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm at work. I had something else come up. It would be the breakout rooms now.
Yes. Hi,
I have no.
Patrick.
Hello.
You don't, yeah, you
Sorry.
don't, it's okay. You could stay here. I was more,
Okay.
yeah, it's okay. I saw that you were talking in the back. Tamika, there should have been a pop-up for you to join St. Louis, possibly.
I'm going to keep the rooms open for probably another minute or so, then do the closed rooms to give them the 60 seconds, since I know we just had some folks get to the rooms. I think we've got plenty of room in the agenda for a couple more minutes. And then you should see folks start to return in about
Okay.
2 minutes.
Sounds good. We have a lot of St. Louis people here today.
Hello.
All right, for those of you who just joined, we're just finishing up our breakout rooms, and people as they come back in, we'll get started with the rest of the program in about 26 seconds, according to my screen. But welcome, glad to have you here.
Does that look about everyone back?
Rika, we should have everyone back now.
Sounds good. So thank you all for joining those breakout rooms. Definite times like this, it's just good to be in relation and community. So we hope you guys got some good questions, or at least was able to find a new person you can connect with for a future one-to-one. So thank you for that. So what actually is independent oversight? Independent oversight is a separate entity. It's a third-party office that is responsible for monitoring and investigating the practices and conditions that actually happen inside of the correctional facilities. Having independent oversight would improve transparency and accountability within our corrections with unbiased information about what's actually happening. The Ombudsman Office would be funded outside the regular budget of the Department of Corrections, but the potential for savings is quite large. Some new issues that the oversight would monitor would be medical, mental health, and substance abuse services, on top of the already issues that they cover, like review sanitation, the living conditions, nutrition, violence that happens within the corrections, civil rights, and accessibility for visits and communication is also directed within this legislation. So oversight is a national effort for prison oversight currently. This map, you see the ones that shaded in the blue, those states in the darker blue already have prison oversight bodies adopted. Federally, and actually very newly, oversight has also been passed by Congress. So we need Missouri to get on board to adopt oversight. Our current state without independent oversight, Missouri Department of Corrections lacks accountability. This has led to widespread issues, including inadequate health care, unaddressed violence, dismissive responses to grievances, and so much more. Families and the public have no transparency and are left in the unknown about their loved ones and what's actually happening.
Oh, Rika, I think we lost you there.
Oh, sorry, I don't know what happened. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Okay.
Yeah, we lost you about talking about loved ones there, about the second bullet.
Yes, loved ones, conditions, figuring out if the conditions of loved ones, and then if basic needs are being met for their loved ones. Missouri Department of Corrections spent over $850 million on corrections in 2023, but 2023 was also one of the deadliest years in Missouri prisons within the past decade, averaging roughly 12 deaths were being accounted for per month. Currently, there are over 23,000 people living in our state prisons, and they are experiencing severe staffing shortages, and it is just not safe conditions inside for both staff and for those who are incarcerated. So oversight is actually not a new idea. In 1957, following a deadly uprising at the Missouri State Penitentiary, lawmakers actually created a bipartisan committee to keep watch over the prison system. The 12 members of the Joint Committee on Correctional Institutions and Problems had two important duties: inspect every prison at least twice a year and prepare a report on their findings for the General Assembly. In 1981, for example, the report highlighted overcrowding, lack of proper mental health care, and inadequate staffing, which is kind of some of the same similar issues that we see today. The committee later renamed the Joint Committee on Corrections, lasted until 2015, when it was abolished in a bill that also eliminated several other joint committees. It does not appear that that committee was active in its duties in the later years. My colleague Gwen is dropping links in the chat where you can learn more about the federal oversight bill and the history of oversight in Missouri and current efforts here. Next slide, please. Last year alone, in 2024, there was a record high of 139 in custody deaths within our Missouri prisons. The majority of deaths were under the age 75, with many even being in their 20s. This is a different start for the picture painted by Missouri Department of Corrections, which attributes the high numbers of deaths to the aging prison population. This is a continuation also of a trend that has averaged roughly more than 10 deaths a month for the past 5 years. The current health conditions are not only the cause of death, how they are an extreme cause of death. It's not the only ones. There has been a huge spike in drug overdoses, particularly fentanyl, and violent deaths and suicides are also an increasing cause of death. Othel Moore Jr., he is one of our last fallen soldiers who was formerly incarcerated and lost his life inside the Jefferson City Correctional Center on December 8th. His family released last year a devastating video of his last moments inside the JCCC. He was restrained with a spit hood over his head after being maced, and the video just was so, horrific that he lost his life, and it basically showed his final moments. Gwen posted a link in the chat about it. Current court records show homicide as the cause of death, and we are hoping that those correctional officers will be held accountable for what they did to Othel Moore Jr. I just want to take a moment of silence for his loss of life and all the loss of lives of those who are formerly incarcerated. Thank you. Next slide, please. So with that being a lawsuit, there are several many other lawsuits. And since the start of 2020, actually the state has paid about $70 million in 139 lawsuits. including $51 million towards a $100 million settlement of correctional officer claims that they were not credited with work time for pre and post shift activities required within their jobs. Out of the 139 lawsuits, many are civil rights violations, discrimination and racial hostile work environments and work conditions, of course, violence, sexual assaults, and many other things. Many of these lawsuits are also with former correctional staff, so that should tell you just the poor conditions that are actually happening and what they experience day to day. And I will say many former staff had similarities in their lawsuits, which attest to the horrid conditions and unsafe conditions for all those who are incarcerated and those who work in the prisons. So who actually benefits from oversight? Of course, people who are incarcerated benefit. Prison oversight can help prevent harm to people who are incarcerated by identifying problems through routine inspections before those problems become worse or more widespread. People who work in prisons and jails, many of the dangerous conditions that impact people who are incarcerated similarly threaten the health, safety, and well-being of people who work in prisons as well. All of our communities, because research suggests that unsafe prisons increase recidivism. Oversight can help ensure that safety issues are identified and addressed, thereby potentially reducing recidivism and making all of our communities safer. Our lawmakers benefit because lawmakers can pass laws that impact prison operations and decide how much money to allocate to their state's Department of Corrections. So all in all of us really benefit from having independent oversight. Next slide, please. These principles were referenced from our national partner, FAM. My colleague Gwen will drop it in the chat. And I think these principles for oversight is really something I hope Missouri models because they're really important and I just like them a lot. Number one, having an independent oversight is definitely needed. Having it just be the separate entity, like I said before. Being able to access and inspect prisons upon demand. I know previously there has been issues with those who have tried to have prison visits and were denied entry. So having that access and accessibility is very important to transparency. Able to obtain documents and data upon demand. Again, the lack of transparency. So being able to have that open communication and documentation to show what's actually happening as it relates to deaths, the conditions, the health, the ages, and all of those. Number four, able to speak confidentially with those who are incarcerated and staff members who are in there. Oftentimes it is not a confidential type of game. Those who are incarcerated don't feel comfortable speaking because they are afraid to get reprimanded or the retaliatory behavior after the fact. They speak truthfully about what's happening to them. So having that is really important. Responsive to incarcerated people and their families, being responsive to policymakers and the public, fully staffed, and of course, fully funded. Our current DOC oversight bills this session is HB 774 from Rep. Bill Allen, HB 603 from Rep. Bill Lucas, and HB 729 from Rep. Kimberly Ann Collins. These bills would establish the Office of Department of Corrections Ombudsman and provisions relating to the Department of Corrections oversight. There will also be 4 legislators, 2 members of the Senate, and 2 from the House on the Corrections Oversight Committee, along with 8 members appointed by the governor. The governor's appointees would have to include a former correctional officer, a man and a woman who were previously incarcerated, and a family member of a person currently incarcerated. The committee would hire and work with an independent corrections ombudsman to investigate complaints, conduct inspections, and then issue regular reports on conditions in the Department of Corrections. So we will take this moment, and I hope you can take this moment with me to take action. My colleague just dropped the take action to support oversight bills and contact your lawmakers now in the chat. We'll give it roughly, 3 to 4 minutes where you can click on that link and contact representatives about the current bills, HB 774, HB 603, and HB 729. So let's take a moment to all do this action alert. And when you have completed, let's see some power fist dropped in the chat so we can see that you've completed it. Thank you, Misha. See your power fist. If you can't find the power fist, you can do your favorite emoji as well. Just any type of emoji. I see you, Patty. Thank you for putting it on the screen. I see Patrick. Thank you. Okay, we're starting to see them rolling. Thank you, all of you. Ashley, Elizabeth, Colleen, Edvania. I hope I said that right.
You did. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. I see favorite emojis. I see fist bumps. I see all of that. So I also have another action that I want you all. So after you completed this, please send the form to any family, friends, neighbors, relatives, coworkers, colleagues. We need all of those. We need all of them to contact their representatives about these current bills so they can be in support. So take a few moments, send it to 4 or 5 friends. I'm seeing more fist bumps. Rochelle, Journey to New Life. Caroline, thank you all. Karen. Oh, it says your address is invalid. Okay, we will send it to you directly. Sandra.
Do you need my information in the chat or something, like an email or something?
Yes, if you can just direct message me your email, I'll send it to you directly and maybe we can figure it out that way after this call.
Okay.
While you're waiting, you can still send it to all your friends and family and everyone.
Gotcha.
Thank you. All right, it looks like we got a lot of fist bumps and favorite emojis dropped in the chat. Thank you for that. Next slide. So our current next steps for the Department of Corrections oversight. There's already a lot of momentum happening this 2025 legislative session. We have lawmakers, organizations, activists, clergy members, and all calling for the need of correctional oversight. So we really do need you and your support. So please also email and thank the current bill sponsors for their support for greater transparency and accountability in the Missouri Department of Corrections. And then make sure you join our Criminal Justice Coalition calls to get ongoing updates about these bills and how you can take action this legislative session. Our next meeting is actually this Thursday, February 6th at 10 a.m. So my colleague Gwen just dropped it in the chat. Please feel free to join our coalition calls. It will be this Thursday at 10 a.m. and we hope to see you there. All right, I'm going to pass it over to my colleague Gwen, who will give clean slate updates. There's a lot of good traction moving in clean slate. And Gwen, are you ready to take it away?
Yeah, thanks so much, Rika. And thank you all for joining us today to learn about oversight. I just want to reiterate everything Rika said. I think correctional oversight is one of the single most important policy issues that we can fight for in Missouri regarding our criminal legal system. And so really excited that it has been getting so much momentum, and appreciate y'all taking action today to contact your lawmakers with your support for those bills. Clean slate, we wanted to take this opportunity to share some updates regarding Clean Slate. For anyone that might not be familiar, Clean Slate refers to legislation to automate the expungement process. Here in Missouri, we have a petition-based expungement system, so you have to be aware that you are eligible for record sealing expungement, and then you have to jump through a bunch of hoops in order to actually get your record sealed. There are about 500,000 Missourians that have a qualifying criminal record that would qualify for expungement based on current law. Less than 1% of the folks that qualify have actually been able to successfully seal their records. And that's because this system is very confusing. I hear that all the time from attorneys, whose job it is to help people with their expungement petitions, that are saying that this is an overly confusing process. It's expensive. You do have to retain an attorney for the most part, unless you're very knowledgeable about the system. And you have to travel to the county of origin. So say you've lived in St. Louis for the last decade, your record is 15 years old, and from Kansas City, you'd have to get to the other side of the state to deal with that record. There's also a flat fee. And so the upshot is that it is just extremely inaccessible and is not having the intended impact. We actually have pretty good expungement policy on the books. There's a large number of qualifying offenses, from the majority of misdemeanors to many nonviolent felonies. But if less than 1% of folks are actually able to successfully seal their records rather, we know that this program is just not having the intended impact, and that's why we are fighting for Clean Slate. Clean Slate legislation would automate the process. So as soon as someone reaches the required amount of years in the waiting period, so this is after they've finished supervision, probation, or parole, their sentence is fully completed, then there's another set number of years, depends on the offense, that they have to remain crime-free for, and then they would become eligible for expungement. So with Clean Slate, as soon as they meet that waiting period requirement, their record would be sealed automatically without any action needed from the individual. This is our third year that we have had Clean Slate legislation filed in both chambers. This year, we do have a new sponsor in the House, Representative Bishop Davidson from the Springfield area. Representative Davidson is a rising star in the Republican Party in Missouri, and has a lot of really great potential. We think that he is going to be an awesome champion both this session and beyond for Clean Slate. Our previous House sponsors both ran for separate seats last year outside of the Missouri House, and so we're not able to return as sponsors this year. We have deepened support from House leadership, and so we're really hoping we've got increased likelihood this year of a floor vote. Last year, we did have hearings in both the House and the Senate, and on the House side, it was voted out of committee. So this year, we hope that it passes, or at the very least gets even further along. On the Senate side of things, we have our two previous sponsors have come back to champion Clean Slate again, Senator Brian Williams with Senate Bill 19 and Senator Curtis Trent with Senate Bill 435. Senator Williams is from the St. Louis area. It is a Democratic senator. Senator Trent is also from the Springfield area and is a Republican senator. And Senate Bill 19, actually, we had a surprise early hearing last week. That feels like a month ago, but it was actually just last week on Wednesday, January 29th, in the Senate Judiciary Committee. Numerous advocates, including some folks on the call today, showed up to testify in support of that bill. So thank you so much to everybody that made their way to Jefferson City for a very early morning hearing. It was 8:30, and for anybody that's not based in Jefferson City or the surrounding area, that can be hard to get to the Capitol that early, especially on short notice. So really appreciate advocates showing up in support of Clean Slate last week. We had a really good hearing, and I'm actually going to drop in the chat a link to that Senate Clean Slate hearing if folks would like to listen. I would encourage you to do so. There is some really great testimony that was shared in support of Clean Slate, some really great talking points, and some really compelling personal stories shared. I'm also going to drop, if you do one additional action today, you can sign on in support of Clean Slate at this link. It will take you to our campaign website. So there's a bunch of great resources on the campaign website there, from one-pagers to recordings of previous events that we've done. Stories folks and organizations have shared in support of Clean Slate, and lots more good stuff, along with a list of media articles about Clean Slate. That link is going to take you to a sign-on letter. Many of you have probably already signed on, so if you have, don't feel like you need to do this again. But if you have not signed on in support of Clean Slate, and you feel compelled to do so, please take a minute to do so now. That will also automatically sign you up for the Clean Slate newsletter, so you will get alerts about any future hearings. And yeah, I think it's going to be a great session for both Oversight and Clean Slate. So thank you so much. I'm going to turn it over to Lucas.
Thanks, Gwen. And before I move on to our future events, our next week of action and our day of action, I want to just pause here and see if anyone had any questions about either the independent oversight for Department of Corrections or the Clean Slate information that Gwen just shared. So feel free to put them in the chat. I know there were some earlier questions. If we didn't get to them, please feel free to pop them back into the chat, or if you'd like to unmute and ask your question. We're a small enough group to go ahead, and if you want to raise your hand, we can call on folks to answer some questions.
Did you say ask questions? Oh, okay. I was wondering if it was too late to submit a testimony in favor of the Clean Slate bill. Myself and two of my professors were interested in advocating for this policy. I was aware of it last year, but I was thinking it was in July and I missed the opportunity to do so. If not, that's okay. I was just wondering.
Yeah, I don't think it's not too late in the sense that we think there'll be future hearings. Gwen, do you want to talk about what maybe the best way to get involved in future testimony?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that question. So in the Senate, they only take in-person testimony. So the best way to show your support for the bills in the Senate is to try to get to Jefferson City on the day of and share testimony. But as a follow-up action, you could email your senator and let them know that you support Clean Slate. You could also prepare testimony in advance. So when Senate Bill 435 and House Bill 953 get hearings later this session, you will be ready to go. If you would like any support in crafting your testimony, you can certainly reach out to Rika and myself, and we'd be more than happy to help you. The House hearing, when that happens, the great thing about the House hearings is that they do accept online testimony. So even if you're not able to be there in person, you can still write in with your support. Not expecting anybody to save this link all the way until then, but just so you have it for reference, I will drop in the chat. This is the link for House testimony. So make sure that you're signed up for our Clean Slate newsletter. And again, if you sign on to that Take Action Clean Slate sign-on page, that'll automatically get you included for any newsletter updates. So all that to say, it's too late to officially give testimony for Senate Bill 19, but certainly not too late to show your support for Clean Slate this session.
Yeah, I just had one more question real quick. Is the Clean Slate initiative for more than one felony, or is it just still the one that
Great
you?
question. So that is a big update that came that I probably should have shared in the Clean Slate updates. So 2024 Senate Bill. Somebody help me. I think 754, I believe, was the omnibus Senate bill that was passed last session. Included a lot of different criminal justice provisions, some good, some bad. And one of the things that we were very excited to see included was an expansion of the lifetime limits. So from 1 to 2 felonies and from 2 to 3 misdemeanors. Another thing to note with Missouri's expungement law is that it has like a one bad night clause. So say you were charged with multiple offenses, all from the same incident. So say you wrote a bad check and you got like 2 different types of fraud charges, and they're both expungement eligible offenses and they happened at the same time, related to the same incident. For the purposes of lifetime limits for expungement, those are going to be considered one felony. So a little bit of a loophole that really just helps folks that might have multiple charges stemming from the same incident. But great question. So our clean slate legislation reflects current law. We just want anybody that is currently expungement eligible to be able to receive that expungement automatically. And so with the increase in lifetime limits from the passage of last year's bill, we have reflected that in our language.
Great, thanks, Gwen. Thanks for those questions, Ashley. Yeah, Karen, you had your hand raised?
Hi, I was just wondering if anyone is especially working on issues related to women in prison, and I had put something in the chat and somebody responded back to me, but I just thought I would open it up to the entire group.
Thanks, Karen, for your question. So if anybody, you can either add on to that thread or put your details in the chat.
Karen, this is Patty.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what you mean. Other than, I'm in touch with women in prison. I know what's going on in there and what they're dealing with. Usually the women's issues, like we did legislation a couple years ago to get a nursery in the women's prison in Vandalia, and it opened last Thursday.
I saw that recently.
Pastor
Yes.
Jackson, who's on this call, he was there, so he could probably tell you more than me. But we worked on that, that's something we've been working on. But I'm in touch with a lot of women in the prison, and if there's something I can help you with, I'll be more than happy to.
Patty, I'll put my contact information in the chat because I think that is something that
I think I got
is
your
sometimes
email.
overlooked, the specific issues that women are facing in prison. So thank you.
Yeah, I think you sent me your email already.
Okay, thank you.
I responded.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
And Karen, I dropped in the chat, but if you're not familiar already with Missouri Appleseed, another great policy organization that was very influential with the prison nursery. They've also been doing some great advocacy related to anti-shackling bills focused on pregnant women in Missouri jails. And then Keyway Center is a reentry housing program here in St. Louis. Used to be Center for Women in Transition, if you're familiar with that name. And they also do some great advocacy.
Thank you, friends.
This is Pastor Jackson. Let me add on to that. We were in Vandalia yesterday, well, Sunday, and I'm not at liberty to share everything, but we heard from some incarcerated citizens that an officer had hired a person in prison, forced them to sell drugs. 2 ladies have been raped. That was in December. So there's about to be an investigation in Vandalia as to why no one has really reported that, and why PREA has not really taken over, has not told that as well. So in answer to your concern, Karen, along with Patty, I'd be more than happy to work with you because I'm also working with a state representative, and there's going to be an investigation as to what happened to those women that's incarcerated. And that's about all, that I'm able to say.
Thank you for that, Pastor Jackson. And again, to go back for our theme of the day, certainly I know you've put some comments in there as well about oversight bills. It certainly shows many of the examples that show the need for some independent oversight. But glad to hear that might be being investigated. Other questions or Gwen, Rika, anything to add right now?
Thank you all. I see on my end, you guys are signing up on the clean slate legislation in support. So thank you. And for those who direct message me your email, I will be reaching out to you all to send you the direct link so you can get on board for oversight.
And just to clarify, Lucas, will these slides be shared out?
Yes, they will be.
Okay,
Yep.
great.
And these links will be shared out in a follow-up email. So you should have all this information. And we've got one more day of our week of action. It's a 3-day work week, as I think someone had mentioned earlier. But we've got Monday, Tuesday, and then tomorrow, Wednesday. So if you are interested in taking action to expand access to affordable housing, tomorrow our great affordable housing policy manager, Misha Smith, will be leading us through a session about taking action to increase awareness and funding for the Missouri Housing Trust Fund, which builds and supports both emergency rental assistance and affordable housing and construction of new affordable housing. So please join us tomorrow, noon to 1, same time, same place. And I will call out Ashley's question as well from earlier about, is it too late to testify for Clean Slate? No, it's not. And another way you can testify and be involved and let lawmakers know is come to our day of action. And our day of action is February 25th. We will be spending the day educating lawmakers about these issues, and in particular Clean Slate, because so much progress has been made with Clean Slate and also these independent oversight. You'll get a chance to work with one of our policy managers or myself, talk to lawmakers in their offices about why you think Clean Slate and independent oversight is important. You'll be able to observe hearings. You'll get a Empower Missouri Day of Action t-shirt. We provide lunch. And it's really just a day where I appreciate the action you take today. It's also good to show up when you can and when you're able. So I really hope to see you all there at the Capitol, February 25th, 2025. Gwen just popped the sign up link for there. That's another one where please, it's always great to travel with friends. Please grab a colleague, a friend, a relative. Patty says it's a great experience. I will pay back the compliment. Patty is one of the great witnesses you'll see if you look at that Senate hearing. Patty was fantastic in explaining Clean Slate. I think Patty will be there as well to meet with lawmakers again and explain why Clean Slate is so important. And I hope you all will join us for our day of action. My theme for the year has been, man, it's sometimes really healthy to yell at the internet. I do it all the time. There's a lot to yell about, and I think can be healthy. But February 25th is a day to talk to those who are elected to represent us and talk to them about real changes that can be made this legislative session to improve the criminal legal system and make lives better for our fellow Missourians. So I hope to see many of you there. Please use the link to sign up. And one last plug, any of these action items, if you've got a way to share them, send a group text, send out a group email, please share them widely. We had a lot of responses, as Rika said, already today. Thank you for your time. If you can get 1, 2, 3, or 4 more people, that'll really amplify all of our voices and get these changes made. I'm going to pass it over to Rika. Thanks for being here. Pass it over to Rika for some closing remarks, but thanks to you all for spending this hour with us.
Yeah, before I do that really quick, is it Chandra?
It's Chandra.
Chandra, sorry. Go ahead with your question.
So there's a bonus meeting on Friday, I think. On the invite and online. So on the invite it says noon to 1, but on the online it says noon to 1, and then there's another one 6 to 7. Is the 6 to 7 still an option, or?
What are we referring? I'm sorry. Go ahead, Lucas.
No, I was going to say, Shannon, I'm not aware of that. Let me look into it. And then I think you already shared out your contact information. I'm sure we've got it for your registration. let me make sure I get back to you. And if it got to more people, we'll try to send out an overall email. There is our book club is meeting Thursday.
Yeah.
Signed up for our book club. That is probably what you're referring to. And so the book club is still happening. And so if you sign up for the book club, please attend that. That actually is, as you probably know, if you signed up for it, is focused around affordable housing, which is our theme of Wednesday's event as well. And so the book club is still happening.
Okay.
And Karen's confirming that I've got that right. Thanks, Karen.
And join us, even if you haven't read the book, you get a lot of great information just being with the people who have had the time to read the book. But I'm working on it. I'm working on it.
Thank you for that, Karen. So thank you all once again for joining us for this hour. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you chose to be here with us. So that shows your dedication to what's happening in Missouri from, the community justice system. Thank you all for being in support of Oversight and Clean Slate. With everything that's happening in the world, federally, nationally, around the world, in your community next door, it's really important to be in community. So just take this moment to hopefully meet someone new if you haven't, or exchange information with someone new so you can be in constant community. I will drop my email. My colleague Gwen will drop her email in the chat. So hopefully you can join our community justice coalition that will be coming this Thursday. And I look forward to building community with you all. So thank you again. And if there's no questions,
thank you.
Thank you.
Great job, guys. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.